When we think of iconic cartoon villains, names like Scar, Ursula, Hades, Cruella, and Hannibal Lecter immediately spring to mind. But while these villains have achieved notoriety in their respective fandoms, there are plenty of other animated baddies who have been long forgotten by time. They're barely remembered as the obscure, even nameless henchmen, or antagonists of whatever limited media they appeared in. Yet many of these characters could have made just as big an impact as the villains already mentioned, if they had received more attention. Tats, because many of them were actually really well written and capable of being so much more. Today we be taking a look at 5 of the most interesting forgotten cartoon villains and exploring what could have been done with them if they had stuck around in the hearts and minds of audiences everywhere. Number 5. Ratigan from The Great Mouse Detective. While Disney's version of Basil of Baker Street wasn't as well received as some of the studio's other releases in the late 80s, it still has its share of fans today and is considered a hidden gem among the company's back catalog. Part of this is due to the film's villain, the evil, plotting Ratigan, voiced by the legendary Paul Williams. Ratigan is a deliciously vain and egotistical mouse who plots to take over London by stealing Queen Mousetonia as crown jewels. He was easily one of the most intelligent Disney villains up until his demise, showcasing strategic thinking and confidence that made him genuinely intimidating. He was also simply a joy to watch thanks to Williams' phenomenal voice acting. Despite this, very little has become of Ratigan since the film's release, though there was a brief cameo in the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse TV series, but other than that, he's remained in the shadows. This is rather disappointing, as Ratigan shows a lot of promise for future appearances. After all, not only was he a fantastic villain in his own right, but he could also make for a great anti-hero if given the chance to redeem himself. There are so many directions that Disney could have taken with this character, especially with the recent trend of giving classic villains their own movies. A Ratigan-centric story focusing on his rise to power would certainly be a fan favorite. Alternatively, Disney could have followed the route of the Despicable Me franchise and turned Ratigan into a reluctant hero after he's defeated it. In any case, this character deserves more recognition than he's gotten over the years. No. 4. Professor Coldheart from Barbie and the Nutcracker. While the Barbie franchise has often been criticized for its seemingly endless recycling of plotlines and character types, one of the things that has remained constant throughout the series is the quality of its villains, with each movie seeming to outdo itself. When it comes to creating truly despicable antagonists, it's easy to forget the earlier entries in the franchise, as the later installments tend to overshadow them. This is a shame, as one of the very first villains, Professor Coldheart from Barbie and the Nutcracker, is one of the best of the bunch. Coldheart is a former toy maker who was scorned by Barbie and her family, who preferred the toys made by his rival. To cope with this rejection, he turns to a life of crime and plots to take over the town of Toyland, enslaving everyone and making them work in his toy factory. This is a surprisingly dark turn for a children's film and signals the kind of stories that the Barbie franchise would eventually become known for. Sadly, we don't see much of Coldheart outside of this movie, as he was never referenced again, and there were no further appearances. Considering the success of later villains like Mal and Evie, it seems likely that Coldheart could have become a popular addition to the franchise if utilized more. He's got a great design, a fantastically over-the-top personality, and a tragic backstory that could have been expanded upon in future films. The fact that he was seemingly created solely to serve as a one-off antagonist is borderline criminal. 3. Judge Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. As one of Disney's more mature animated films, The Hunchback of Notre Dame features one of the darkest and most tragic villains in the company's history. Judge Claude Frollo is a man consumed by religious fervor and lust for power, willing to do anything to uphold the supposed sanctity of Paris and the church. His relentless pursuit of Esmeralda and the extreme measures he takes against those he deems sinners makes him one of Disney's most ruthless and unhinged villains. And he stands out as the only Disney baddie to be based on a real historical figure. Despite this, Frollo is often overshadowed by other Disney villains, as the movie itself is sometimes forgotten amidst the studio's Renaissance era. As such, the character hasn't seen much in the way of appearances outside of the original film. There was a brief mention in The House of Mouse and a non-canonical cameo in the film Gargoyles, but nothing else of significance. This is a real shame, as Frollo is arguably one of Disney's most complex and morally grey characters. Unlike most villains, he does seem to have any interest in personal gain, and is driven purely by his desire to maintain law and order. It's possible that this is just a front for his lust for power. But there is a strong argument to be made that Frollo truly believes he's doing the right thing. Exploring this idea further through a sequel or spin-off series could prove fascinating. Alternatively, Disney could utilize the character in a more light-hearted setting, such as a crossover special where Frollo is forced to team up with other Disney heroes, despite his conflicting morals. Fourth, whatever direction they took, the inclusion of this beloved villain would almost certainly please fans of the original movie. Number 2. Mother Gothel from Tangled. When Disney began the process of adapting the classic fairy tale Rapunzel into a full-length animated movie, it was decided that the story would be given a darker twist to make it more appealing to modern audiences. This included giving the antagonist a more fleshed-out design and backstory. The result was Mother Gothel, a selfish and manipulative woman who uses Rapunzel's magical hair to maintain her youth and beauty. While she might not be as instantly recognizable as some of the other Disney villains on this list, Gothel is perhaps more intriguing thanks to her relatively human-like qualities. She's not a supernatural being like Ursula or a power-hungry maniac like Jafar. She's simply a woman who's willing to exploit another person for her own benefit. This makes her all the more terrifying, as she could realistically be anyone. Despite being one of the more recent additions to the Disney canon, Mother Gothel has yet to receive any spin-off appearances outside of the Tangled franchise. This is once again a shame, as she's a character with a lot of potential. Like Frollo, Gothel is a character whose internal conflict could be further explored. Is she simply misguided and lonely, or is she truly a villain who deserves to be locked away? Either way, she would be a fascinating addition to a darker Disney continuity, like the recent live-action remakes. Alternatively, she could be featured in a story that focuses on the consequences of breaking the rules of magic, like with the Descendants franchise. 2. In either case, there are plenty of possibilities for this character, if Disney decides to revisit her. Number 1. Governor Ratcliffe from Pocahontas. The 90s were an interesting time for Disney, as they seemed willing to tackle much more mature subject matter than they had in the past. This is nowhere more evident than in Pocahontas, which featured one of the most controversial Disney villains of all time, in Governor Ratcliffe, a greedy and genocidal land grabber. Ratcliffe embodies the worst aspects of European colonialism and serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked capitalism. Despite this, the character is often forgotten, as Pocahontas herself has fallen out of favor in recent years. This is unfortunate, as Ratcliffe is, without a doubt, one of Disney's most despicable villains. Not only does he seek to destroy the natural world and slaughter Native Americans for profit, but he's also incredibly cowardly. It's his men who do the dirty work for him, and he hides in fear whenever danger arises. Fear. If there was ever a Disney villain who deserved an extra special punishment, it's this guy. Sadly, he's not been featured in much of anything outside of the original film. There was a planned Pocahontas 2. Journey to a New World featuring Ratcliffe as the main villain, but it was cancelled in order to focus on the Atlantis, the Lost Empire. This is likely for the best, as Ratcliffe's inclusion in a sequel would have been forced and ultimately cheapened the impact of his original character. Instead, Disney should look to the Disney parks, where Ratcliffe can serve as the main antagonist of a new attraction based on Pocahontas. This would allow the character to be experienced by a whole new generation of park guests and help cement his status as one of Disney's most notorious villains. Thanks for watching. Which forgotten cartoon villain do you think deserves a second chance? Let us know your thoughts. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more animated adventures.